expansive our reach.
Well, Artie, thank you guys for the intros. I'm going to start with the idea of culture, and we can look at it a couple different ways. We can look at it organizational and family-wise, like Sam, or you can look at it, Ben, where you guys have just started out. How do you set culture for an organization from the beginning, or how do you continue it if you're in a family business like you two here? Ben, I'll start with you.
For us, I tell you, my greatest influences from a culture perspective. There was a professor at Darden that created something called Stakeholder Theory, and I went to Darden. And Stakeholder Theory is very similar to what Will was referencing in how he runs his business. But really, where it really caught my attention is when I was leaving. I was in the finance world in New York, and I was leaving to start a career in hospitality. And I read a book by Danny Meyer called Setting the Table. And Danny, if you're not familiar with him, is one of the most prolific restaurateurs in Manhattan. But then he also founded Shake Shack. And he wrote a book called Setting the Table that's really based off of Stakeholder Theory. And it's all about you treat your employees like family, and you pay them well, treat them well. And they will in turn treat your customers well. Your customers will come back more. You treat your suppliers well, and you give back to the community. If you do all those things, ultimately the last thing you need to think about is your bottom line, because it'll all come together in the right way. And so we look at our employees, our team members, as our greatest asset we have. Our buildings are not, our brand is not, it's really our people. And we believe if you treat them like that, they will give back to our members. They will give back to our company, and that's proven to be the case. We've had very limited turnover in the 6-7 years that we've been now operating, and so that's really how we try to build our culture. The other key aspect is we try to hire great people and let them do their job and not micromanage, and really let them use their talents and their skills to thrive. So that's really how we think about culture at Comcast.
All right, Sam, what happens when you've been given the keys to the kingdom? Now all of a sudden the Cadillac's moving along. Here you go, running.
And I'll tell you, it was more like a minivan than a Cadillac. So it was just a family business, and it was my father started, got out of the Air Force, and he started working on typewriters and grew from there. And he got to a point where he said, I wouldn't work for me and not for a corporation. And it was a struggle. So, there was a lot of times when, he wasn't around for weekends or little league games and stuff like that. Because he was working to build a business. So what I knew is I saw from him, there are a couple of things. One was, Sundays were always Sundays. They were off. We go to church, we do things like that. I saw his values there. You pick those values up and you grow along with those values, and that's what you do. And one of the things was, because we were a small family, as we started to employ people, they became members of a family. And today we have people that have been working there for, our dispatcher for service is 27 years with us. I've seen her children be born. I've seen them graduate college now. So, and I'm only 39. So,
Well, you look good. That must be that good clean living.
But I'll say though, it does start with you. You have to have the values to start with, and then grow from culture. And I like what one of the TED Talks I heard where it says people don't buy what you sell, they buy why you sell it. So it's not what but why, and you have to have a reason why. And being involved in your community. If you just want to reap and never get back, your crop is going to be limited the next year. So we just believe in giving back.
All right, Aaron, you stepped into, so your grandmother has an accounting firm, correct?
That's correct.
And so you step in U.S. Pest Control, things are rolling along. You knew everything about the business, right?
Not at all. Like I said, we've been around for 30 years now, but about 6 years ago, it got to the point where the business was actually going to get sold. Because like I said, my grandmother, she has her own business. My grandfather, he passed away. So it was not under the correct management, I would say. She's busy. You have male technicians coming in, doing what they do. There's no true guidance, I would say, or leadership. So the business was about to get sold, and the guy came in, he was looking to purchase the company basically for nothing. And I was in the scene a little bit, not really. I'm doing my own thing, working regular jobs, this and that, but I didn't want to see the company go down that way. So I said, you know what, man, time to man up. Let me man up. Let me learn a little bit more about the company, see where we are. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna run some routes on my own. And I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna get licensed, I'm gonna go to school for it, did that. So 5-6 years later, I mean, we've grown big time based on me, I would say starting over a little bit, because it's a new day and time now. Everything is technology based, everything is online presence, your brand is important, all that stuff is visual. So I had to basically start by getting the groundwork in place with new website, uniforms, you know, getting logos on the vehicle, establishing the US Best brand that I wanted it to be. So started networking, people like Danielle, Mike. So doing things like that to help grow the company has kind of been the biggest key to us getting to where we are now.
Gotcha.
It kind of occurred to me as we were sitting here, you know, there's growing your brand internally, there's operating inside your own company, but like the chamber and Shannon, what you do, and it's very different than operating a single company, right? Because you're managing hundreds of thousands of people in different organizations, and all have different stakeholders. They all have different desired outcomes. So that's a little bit different. So if you could talk about building a culture across different businesses and across different lines of operations, because that's significantly different than operating inside your own four walls and what you can control, because largely you can't control what happens.
No one can.
Right. So that's a little different, different skills. So maybe you guys could touch on that.
Well,